Welcome to the Pot of Inquiry, everyone. I'm excited to introduce you to today's guest, Christopher Maher, and he has written a book called Free for Life. And I found this book very interesting. Christopher is a former Navy SEAL who went through a lot of childhood trauma and has since developed a program that he calls True Body Intelligence. And I think his story will be not only captivating, but will lead into the overall context that you'll find with the program that he has designed. So please enjoy this wonderful conversation that I have with Christopher Maher.
Welcome to the Pot of Inquiry. Ready for some thought-provoking cerebral whipping and the destruction of ridiculous medical dogma? Want to shift those stale, moldy old paradigms? Well then, don that thinking cap of yours, get down in the cave, and join our host, Dr. Stephen Barrett, for this week's episode. Let's start spelunking.
All right. Well, I have Christopher Maher here with me, who wrote a book called Free for Life. And I think this book brings up some subjects that all of the biohackers in this audience will like tremendously. And as I said to you before we just got on this recording, it's an unbelievable story. So I'm very honored to have you on the show. So thanks for taking the time.
Well, thanks for having me. You know, it's funny that you brought up the biohackers because there's a thing called Biohackers Magazine, and I was talking to a friend, and they invited me to come write an article for them. And the article I was going to title "The Godfather of Biohacking," because I started this, before
Dave Asprey.
Yeah, before anyone even knew that there was a need for it, because
Right.
I was suffering from pain, and there's
Yeah.
nothing like pain to get you to turn on your thinking brain and start to investigate and ask bigger questions and find people that could potentially help you.
Right. Well, I think I think there's so much meat in what you're doing that we'll get into that, but I think it's important to preface it with your story a little bit, because I think without the preface of, the fact of what you went through as a child and your Navy SEAL training and these types of things, I think it's going to give more of a context once we get into what you've designed to try to help people. So you want to share with the audience a little bit about, let's talk about Mrs. Baskerfield a little bit, who
Yeah.
sounds like she should be in jail or something. And,
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about your story and some of the stuff
Yeah,
about
sounds good.
Navy SEAL training and that. We'll go from
Okay.
there.
So I dealt with childhood trauma, with something you would call traumatic, right?
Right.
And when you're a child, like I was, and you're in the care of someone else, you're at the effect of their development or their lack of development. So whether they're God-fearing Christian, whether they're a teacher, whether they're wellness focused, whether they're emotionally intelligent, and the provider that I had at the time, my mom was having emotional breakdown. She was very stressed. She went back to see her family, and I was staying with a woman named Mrs. Baskerfield. And Miss Baskerfield decided that the best way to teach me to not play with matches was to turn on the gas stove and to put my hands in the middle of the fire and burn them to, I've had,
Oh, geez.
my last surgery was in 1982.
God.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the burns happened in 1971. Right. So
Okay.
I was in and out of hospitals. There's tons of scars all over my body from the skin grafting, my thighs, my buttocks, my right next to the center of my groin, to put my hands back together so that I could use them.
Right.
And when you go through an event like that, you become altered. And so my strategy was just to play the background, right?
Okay.
So I was either silly, funny, or I was super quiet.
Okay.
Okay. So I would either, that was my way of managing the field emotionally and making sure that I was safe.
Right.
And I had a mom who was really struggling emotionally because she was Irish born, okay? And she's in the United States in the late 60s with a biracial child
Hmm.
where African Americans were fighting for their rights. Remember, I was born in 68, right? So
Okay.
Robert F. Kennedy had just been assassinated.
Right.
Medgar Evers was assassinated. Martin Luther King. Like there had been, there had been a lot of pushback socially, and people were trying to find where America was going to go. And I just didn't think my mother understood what she was getting herself into.
Hmm.
And so by the time that I was 7, she decided that she had had enough and it was too much for her, and she took her own life.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right. So then I bounced around in foster care for a little bit, and I ended up with a family, and they took very good care of me. And I moved in with a bunch of brothers and sisters, and other kids that had, I would probably say, were on the spectrum
Okay.
and dealing with their own set of betrayal and abandonment in different
Mhm.
ways.
Right.
And the people that took care of me, the Evans, Charlie and Kitty Evans, they did a very good job of making me feel loved and cared for. And then within like 7 months, I was at a boarding school named Milton Hershey School in Hershey, Pennsylvania,
Hmm.
which is the world's most well endowed institution. Okay,
Okay.
so we had everything. Campus is 10,000 acres. You had all the food you needed. You had great education. You had an interesting living dynamics. And when you got a little bit older, you got to work on the farm, right? So
Okay.
you had to get up, you had to milk cows, you had to feed cows, you had to herd cows. It was a lot of work, right? So basically in the school, they taught me how to work and do things that I didn't like and I was against,
Right.
hoping that one day it would be to my benefit.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, it was to my benefit, but while it was going on, I really struggled in that situation because I wanted ownership over my own choices. And there they had a fixed system. They had a way that things worked. And if you stepped outside of the way things worked, well, you were punished severely.
Okay.
So I had to learn to swallow my pride constantly and learn to just sort of fit into a system. And fortunately, I graduated and I moved on. I went to Shippensburg University. And imagine being in boarding school for 10 years, and here I am free in college. And now I get to build myself, my social emotional
Hmm.
part of me.
Hmm.
And so I spent more time at frat parties than I did in class.
Okay. Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I drank
Yeah.
more beer than I read books.
Gotcha.
And, it was a new dynamic. And then at some point, I realized that I probably wasn't mature enough for this situation and I needed something in my life. And I ended up in the military and in SEAL training.
Now, did you
And
make a dedicated decision that you wanted to be a Navy SEAL, or did you end up in the Navy and then it emanated from that?
no, no, what happened is one of my buddies I went to boarding school with, his name is Mark Riggleman. His mom's name is Martha. And I went down into her basement and she had a biannual magazine about
Okay.
SEAL training. And I
Okay.
read it from front to back and then back to front and looked through the pictures. And by the time I was done thoroughly investigating that magazine, I was at the recruiter's office 3 days later.
Wow. So you
Because,
knew.
oh, I knew as
Yeah.
soon as I saw the cover,
Yeah.
there was this visceral response in my body that was like, this is for me. And I knew they were going to be able to challenge me.
Oh,
One,
yeah.
I knew I was a good athlete. I knew I was smart. I knew I was fun. I knew I was funny. And I knew they would push me physically. I knew they would push me emotionally. I know they would push me spiritually. What I didn't know is they would push me energetically.
Okay.
And it was a challenge. Like anything that you pick that is requires an extraordinary amount of focus and
Wow.
dedication and devotion, they ask for no less than everything that you have and
Right.
then some more, right?
Okay.
Like even to think about it this way, the human body only has so much energy every day.
Right.
And every day that I was in SEAL training, I was spending energy from my future
Got you.
because they were requiring more than I could actually give. So it was a good place. It was a
Yeah.
good place for me to grow up. And the difference for me going to boarding school, when I went to boarding school, I didn't volunteer to go there. My grandmother signed the papers and forced me to be there against my will. Well, the SEAL teams, I signed up for that. And
Right.
so because I volunteered for it, I was okay with the structure, right?
Right.
I
Right.
didn't sign up for Milton Hershey School when I was a kid, so I wasn't okay with that much structure.
Hmm.
And, whether or not it was right or wrong or the good thing to do, it was the place that I needed to be. And I needed to, let's put it this way, I had women who raised me. Well, you go to SEAL training, it's all men, right?
Right.
And
Right.
and and it's no nonsense.
Right.
So they expect perfection, basically, or at least as close to perfection as you can provide.
Right.
And the attrition rate is high. It's like 92 point something percent. So
I,
that means
I was
for
going to
every,
I was going to ask you. It's
yeah,
very. I mean, once you get to the program, it's a very small fraction that actually get through the
yeah,
program.
yeah.
Is
And
that
it,
because
it
they physically wear you out, or because they mentally beat you down with the physical wearing out?
I think it's because the demands are just so high
Right.
that the only people that are going to make it through that program are the people that are there for the right reason.
Okay.
Right. And like
Right.
some guys are there because guess what? Their dad was too hard on them.
Mhm.
Or they're there because they were bullied in school. Or like the guys that make it through the program, they had pretty much had difficult childhoods.
Okay.
Okay. And they're just gritty. It isn't the big, strong guys you see that are like 6'6", 245 pounds. And it isn't the guys that are like super athletes, right?
Right.
And they think that, well, if I'm so fit that this should all be easy for me. And
Right.
this is grinding every day, every second of the day. Everywhere you go in SEAL training, you have to run. There's no walking. I never
Mhm.
walked in SEAL training. I
Okay.
ran everywhere I went for years.
Wow. Yeah. So, so, so what you're saying then is the biggest component to getting through is the grit factor.
Yeah, the grit factor.
Got to have it.
You got to have, if you don't
Yeah.
have that,
Right.
like I never once thought about quitting. Like there wasn't
Okay.
anything for me that was like, oh, this hurts so much.
Right.
Because I had already been through the pain of having a woman put my hands on a gas stove when I was 3.5 years old. Right? There's
So,
nothing more painful than that.
well, yeah, no, burns are horribly painful. And then the hand is so innervated. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's just crazy that a person would do that. But did those hand injuries preclude some of your activity in the SEAL training? You were able to
Well,
get,
yeah, I was able to get through it, but it was difficult because this hand is much smaller than this hand.
okay,
Okay, and so when we were doing like rope climbs and pull-ups, I was getting a lot of bicep tendonitis because
because of
this the
overcompensation.
bicep, yeah,
Yeah,
it was working overtime. So
right.
at the end of the day, I was able to get through it. And look, at SEAL training, you're not and never going to go up to an instructor and go, "Look, my bicep hurts because this hand is smaller."
Right.
He's going to go like, "And so what?"
Right.
Like you suck it up and you move on, you get through it.
Now, did they give you a little bit of a hard time
Yeah,
with
they
that
gave me a
before?
hard time because I was just different, right?
Okay. Okay.
Right.
No, but
So
I'm not talking about when you got in the program. I'm talking about when you were going through the enrollment. They obviously had to screen everybody from a physical standpoint.
yeah, but my scores were so good in all the other areas that they just,
They just kind of looked at like,
yeah, they
okay,
don't even
yeah,
pay attention because I
right.
was very good at hiding my hand,
Okay.
right? And that was something that was going on subconsciously. And one day I realized like, oh, I always had my hand either on the inside of my leg or behind my hip or and there no one ever took notice because I didn't really expose it. And I never
Yeah.
complained about the pain that I was in. Because if you went to medical too often in SEAL training, the instructor staff started to pay attention to you in a way
Right.
that wasn't good,
Right.
right?
Like, oh, we
And
better watch this guy. We got too many medical problems going on.
yeah, like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
always in the medical tent. Like what's
Yeah.
going on for him?
Right.
Like
Right.
is he mentally weak? Like how come
Yeah.
he's just not sucking it up the way that I sucked it up?
Right. All right. So you get through this incredibly tough program. And you talk about borrowing energy from the future. So it's like a
Yeah.
huge credit card debt that you're going to have to pay back at some point in
Yes.
time, right? And I mean, that's a good analogy, I think, because then you went into Olympic training, as I understand from the
Mhm.
book, right?
Yeah.
And well, first of all, how long did you stay in the SEAL program?
I was there from 1991 to 1997.
Okay, so 6+ years.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then after that, you decided track and field. Is that
Yep.
okay?
Yep.
So you
I thought
started.
this I thought the stars were aligned
Yeah.
when I was running, and I enjoyed being fit.
Sure.
And
Who
so
who
I thought,
wouldn't?
oh, this will be an easy transition.
But you started having all these injuries.
Yes,
And so that could have been the energy depletion
for
that,
sure.
that you borrowed from your future, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. So I can't imagine, the amount of emotional stress from having your hands burned at that young of an age, because it's such an impressionable age. That's got to lock into the central nervous system like you can't
Hmm.
believe. And
Yeah.
then you go through maybe what most arduous training there is, Navy SEAL training, which had to, in addition to the energy deficit, did it drain you mentally a little bit? Because it seems like it would have to me,
Yeah, how do I say it? I think for me, I've always been really mentally strong. That's been a
right?
strong suit for me. So, and I think the burning of my hands had something to do with that. I think also having a mother who was emotionally out of balance
Mhm.
made me really psychologically and emotionally resilient.
Right.
And so even if I was depleted, I wasn't aware of it
Okay.
because I could recapitulate really quickly,
Okay.
right?
So you make a statement in your book that I think is very eloquent and very true, but significantly under-recognized. And that is, you can be fit, but not healthy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that, I think, is something that the audience should ponder just for a second, because
Mm.
you're going to the Olympics, you've gone through SEAL training, and you've reached a level, a height of fitness that most of us can only imagine. And yet you say, I was extremely fit, but I wasn't healthy.
Yeah. I was very unhealthy. Like,
Yeah.
because, my version of health was connected to fitness. And the way that that came about, and I got that awareness, is one of my buddies I called up, first person I went to and said, look, I'm suffering. I got a lot of pain in my body. He brought a yoga mat and a juicer to my house.
Right.
And he made this radish, kale, apple, beet. I think there might have been some ginger in there. All the things that I wasn't drinking. My favorite beverage at the time was beer.
Before we continue with this great discussion, I just want to take a quick break to acknowledge this week's sponsor. I'm constantly exploring new avenues to enhance well-being and address any health concerns. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to an exciting supplement called STEM Regen, which I take daily and genuinely believe could revolutionize your health journey as well. STEM Regen stands out as a game changer in the realm of wellness. Crafted from 5 potent plant extracts, it boasts a remarkable ability to stimulate the release of your body's own stem cells from your red bone marrow. Why is this significant? Well, stem cells are the superheroes of our body's natural repair system. They possess the extraordinary capacity to morph into various cell types, aiding in tissue regeneration and repair. As we age, the quantity of circulating stem cells in our system reduces significantly, impairing our body's ability to heal and rejuvenate itself effectively. STEM Regen steps in to counter this decline by kickstarting the release of stem cells into circulation, thereby bolstering your body's innate repair mechanisms. Once unleashed into your bloodstream, these mobilized stem cells actively seek out areas of damage or injury, initiating the healing process. By incorporating STEM Regen into your daily routine, you're essentially empowering your body to tap into its own regenerative prowess more efficiently. I firmly believe that Stem Regen could be a valuable addition to your wellness regimen, especially if you're seeking to fortify overall health and vitality, accelerate tissue repair, or expedite recovery from injury or illness. This first of its kind stem cell mobilizer is changing the game in regenerative medicine. Don't wait to unleash your body's innate healing capabilities. Visit stemregen.co/Dr. Steven, that's with a PH, and use the code SBPOD to get a 15% discount off your first order of Stem Regen.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So he drank his down in just like a few minutes.
Yeah.
And you could see like he was enjoying what he was drinking. It was making him feel good. Every sip I took, it was like poison.
Wow.
To me.
Your
right?
body
and
was rejecting it.
Yes. In that
Almost.
moment, I realized that he was fit and healthy, and I was fit and toxic.
Interesting. So you then start the Olympic training, and you started having, I guess, musculoskeletal breakdowns. What were you training for specifically?
Yeah, initially what I wanted to do, I wanted to compete in the Olympic trials at 800 meters.
Okay. So sprinter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I found a coach, Manny Batista, and started training distance, started doing cross country in college. Right. Found a program. Then I got into the track program. But then the track program, I switched down with the sprinting team, and I work with them in the spring and the summer. And so I continued to keep getting these little nagging injuries. I'd have a good race, I'd have a good performance, and then I'd either have plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, compartment syndrome in my left calf, iliotibial band friction syndrome, runner's knee, ruptured or burst in my left hip. I mean, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
Right.
And so what I realized retrospectively is that the imbalance was being pushed deeper and deeper into my body, but it was all on one side. I never had any pain on the right side of my body.
All left-sided pain.
Yep. And I never had any issues with men during my, while I was being raised. Okay. My challenges and my abusers were women.
Okay.
And so if you look and you understand that the left hemisphere of the brain controls the right side of the body, and the left hemisphere of the brain is practical and pragmatic and logical.
Right.
That's the mental. And if you understand that the right side of the brain, the right hemisphere, controls the left side of the body, which is emotional, right? Creative and feminine.
Right.
Of course, I was having all of my problems on the left side of my body.
Very interesting. In retrospect, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
So, like the body tells the truth.
Right. So then after you started having this musculoskeletal breakdown, for lack of a better way to put it, when was that in relation to when you discovered the smoothie?
Yeah, that was, let's see, the musculoskeletal stuff was already happening. And I found him and he helped me, right?
Okay.
So he brought a yoga mat and a juicer. So then I understood that stretching was something I needed to be doing. He could get in all the positions. I could get into none.
Right.
All right.
Right.
But then he said to me, look, you need to go find someone who will help you, maybe some Rolfing. And I was like, what's he talking about? He mentioned this word. He said structural integration. And I went and I found a guy over time. It took about 6 to 9 months. This guy named Stephen Bolger. And he was a Heller worker. And he was practicing a system called structural integration. And I went in and received sessions from him. And it was painful, right? He used his elbows and his forearms and his knees and like whatever he could do to get in to break up some of that calcification and hardening on all my, let's say, should be soft tissue, all the connective tissue that was getting really thick and dense and causing a lot of the twist that was occurring in my body.
So I think this brings up a point. You know, we've talked about fascia on other episodes on this show, and largely up until just recently, fascia has been at least considered by surgeons that it's just something that we have to cut through to get to what we want to take care of. And people don't realize that it's an organ system in and of itself. There's a tremendous amount of energy that that is going through that. And, so it's interesting to me when I read your book about how you really identified that stretching was a huge component to your return to much better
Balance.
health or balance, or however you would like to put it. So I remember reading that you ended up finding this guy named Roberto,
Yeah.
and he was kind of like maybe a pivotal character in your progression. Was that after this Bulger?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
after. So once I met Stephen Bolger and he started helping me, then I got into like hot yoga, acupressure,
Mhm.
acupuncture. I was looking under every stone and fallen tree in the woods to help me get back into a state of balance
Okay.
to support my goal, which was to get to the Olympic trials, right? I
Right.
just want you to
Right.
understand all this. I did all this effort. It wasn't because I was looking at myself in the mirror going, Christopher, you need to find balance in your life.
Right. Right.
I was doing this because I was still externally focused on the rewards of external achievement,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
As
Right.
opposed to internal integration.
Okay.
I just want all the listeners to know that so they don't start thinking that I was this wonderful person who was focused on evolving myself. I wasn't there. That's not
Right.
my driver. Was I wanted to be seen by the world. I wanted to be rewarded for the efforts that I put forward. So it was very self-focused,
Right.
right?
Right.
I wasn't doing any of this for the benefit of humanity. I was selfishly focused.
Right. You wanted to run in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I want all eyes on me and I want to maximize my potential.
Okay. And then
Okay?
slowly you undergo a metamorphosis where you go
Yes.
from this, I hate to say selfish viewpoint to, let's call it, a more generally aware
Hmm.
uh, viewpoint. And so was it Roberto then working on
Yep.
some of the stretch that was that kind of like that?
1000%.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, imagine
And
I'd spent, what was that? So I spent 97, 98, 99. So really, so I already spent three years of acupuncture, acupressure, yoga, hot yoga, Feldenkrais, the Gosku method, meditation, um, weightlifting. My whole life was wrapped around this. It was from appointment to appointment, from teaching to teaching, from class to class, from learning to learning. And then one of my buddies I went to Milton Hershey school with, right?
mhm.
Of course, his name was Mark Perspalaja. And and Mark said, "Hey, I just saw this guy in Good Morning America. He's got 5 stretches that'll change your life." Of course, I write back to Mark, "Why don't you take these 5 stretches to go change your life? I feel pretty good about what I'm doing
Right.
because I had a plan, right?"
Mhm.
Well, the challenge was this, is I was moving forward, but I was moving forward an inch at a time,
Okay.
where when I got with Roberto, I was able to move miles in a moment, right?
Right.
So within one day, within 24 hours of him picking me up at the airport, I was no longer in pain.
Which is
All the pain at
astounding.
every joint was gone.
Yeah.
And I just spent the last 3 years, I spent all my money, all my time, all my energy, and all my efforts. And I was slowly I was getting a little bit better here and there, okay,
Okay.
with full dedication.
Right.
All right. So, in one respect, I was really happy. Like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. I don't have any pain in my body. On the other end, I was pissed because I was like, you all sold me that you could help me get to where I could get going with what we were doing. And the truth is I needed to go a mile and you took me an inch. I meet this guy, he takes me 10 miles and he only
Yeah.
promises me a foot.
Right.
So after that one day, that changed everything.
So if, like, when I read your book, it sounded like this was an extremely painful process that
Oh
he
yeah.
put you through. And
Yeah,
my
he wasn't
question
joking
is,
around.
my question would be, Can somebody who's not a Navy SEAL get through that type of thing?
Yeah,
Because it
yeah, yeah.
sounded like it was a big mountain to climb from amount of pain.
Yeah, well, look, to his benefit, he was 53 years old at the time, right?
Okay.
And I could work. Like I could outwork 99.9% of the people on the planet, right? And
Right.
I was never going to give up. But he had the benefit of leverage because he was using his body weight to put me in these very odd positions.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
And I had to use all my force to be able to lift him and hold him up. But while I was doing that, it was forcing my muscles to contract maximally and lengthen simultaneously, which was changing the bone rotational relationships.
Yeah.
As soon as we shifted the bone rotation relationships 2 or 3 degrees in the right direction, that pulled all of the stress and tension off of my joints. And then
Wow.
suddenly all the joint discomfort was gone. And the
Interesting.
irony, here's the funny part of this. Every time we would take out a load of tension like that, I would laugh uncontrollably for like 10 to 15 minutes. Like I
So,
couldn't stop laughing.
so there was almost like this freedom released
Hmm.
from being out of the pain, from adjusting the fascial tension, for lack of a
Yes.
better way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you look into Chinese medicine, you understand the concept called constitutions. And what they mean is that each person that's born is more connected to one of the organs than all the other organs. And so the kidneys are the center for humor. And so as
Okay.
he removed more tension from my body, I
Right.
would laugh even more uncontrollably. So I spent
Interesting.
4 days with him, literally, basically crying and laughing the entire time.
Wow. Incredible. The mind body interface is,
Oh,
it's there's no question it exists. I mean,
yeah.
30 years ago, medicine really didn't recognize any connection. I think it's pretty hard to refute that now. So you also went through the, I guess you would call it the dark room retreat, where
Yes.
you deprived yourself. So I just for the audience, I mean, when I have somebody who has gone through what you've gone through, not to mention the Navy SEAL training, but to do what we're going to talk about for a second here, the dark room retreat, that's a tremendous amount of credibility, because people who sometimes write books on how to help yourself don't do anything but sit at their desk and make up stuff, and
Yeah.
they don't have the credibility in my mind, and certainly somebody who has done what you've done has incredible amounts of wherewithal and credibility in my mind. So tell us about that dark room retreat, because am I correct? It was 28 days.
28 days. 28
Wow.
days, zero photons of light.
Yeah.
And
That almost sounds like some type of CIA torture.
yeah, well, I mean, it would have been had the teacher been anyone else than a guy named Montauk Chia, but you have to, every hour was accounted for,
Okay.
right? And so that means like you were fed at a certain time, you
Right.
went to morning meditation at a certain time, you went to morning exercise at a certain time. He set it up so that you're being fed 4 to 5 times a day.
All right.
And then you have 2 hours a day where you're receiving massages from therapists that he's trained
Okay.
for the last 20 years. And then you have all the meditations that you're meeting with him 3 times a day for meditation. So basically,
Okay.
it was like SEAL training,
Right.
except
But
spiritually
right.
and psychologically and energetically. And so after that 28 days, or during that 28 days, I had the most profound experiences that I had ever had in my life.
Is
And
this where you talk about the third eye?
oh yeah, the third,
Yeah.
yes,
Tell people what
yes.
the third eye is, and then let's tie it into the DMT, because I think there's a lot of
Okay. Yeah,
interest there.
there's a lot of benefit there. So
Yeah.
when we look at the third eye, so I just came back from the dark room. Okay.
Okay.
So what happens is you have your two physical eyes, and then you have your third eye. As your third eye turns on, you start to get access to greater amounts of what's called violet light.
Okay.
And so when I go to bed at night and I turn the lights off in my bedroom, I can still see the majority of things that are going on in my bedroom, even though there's 0 photons of light, because I'm seeing things through my third eye.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So when the first 3 days when you're in a dark room, your body's producing a massive amount of melatonin because it's no longer competing with serotonin. So every
Okay.
photon of light that hits your skin, your body produces a relative amount of serotonin. So once melatonin reaches its maximal saturation in your blood, your body releases pineoline, which is a neurotransmitter that comes from the pineal gland.
Okay.
And then pineoline reaches its maximal saturation. Once that happens, your body releases the first of two spiritual molecules, which is called ON5E.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 8 to 10 hours later, it starts releasing, flooding DMT,
Right.
dimethyltryptophan, continuously.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
so I went through what you would call the ascension process during that 28 days. On my 14th day, I ascended out of this third dimensional plane that we're on to the surface of Sirius A.
Okay.
Okay. And then out of the left corner of my eye, I could see Sirius B.
Okay.
Right. So even though I was in my body, I was able to be in two worlds simultaneously. And I was able to, see my past, see my future, see things that were coming for me, and just sort of listen to the divine, listen to the word of God as I was being guided to grow beyond my own limitations.
Well, they call DMT the God molecule.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Oh, you didn't know that. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. They refer to it as the God molecule. And so the DMT then had to be part of an integral part of the whole process, because that really had to rewire the brain for you.
1000 rewired and healed my brain from all the
Yeah.
damage that I did to it when I was, a beer drinking a wild man when I was in the SEAL teams.
Got you. Okay. All right.
And so
So,
as my brain started to repair, my focus started to shift, right? I started to
okay.
shift from self-focus to global service,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
How do you get from self-focus and being a selfish person to being focused on spending your entire life developing things that will help humanity,
Right.
right? There has to be some extreme interventions that occur, and this was one of the interventions.
And now a message from our sponsor. I've been taking Nature's Marvels bioregulatory peptides for more than 3 years now on a very consistent basis. It's an integral part into my wellness journey, and I can't imagine not even going on this journey without that. These are designed with cutting-edge science to optimize and restore your body's natural processes. After 3 years, I can say without a doubt, this isn't another wellness product that just gets pushed to the back of the cabinet. This is the real deal for human optimization and longevity. Start your journey today with Nature's Marvels. Our website's below. So this, like Roberto, was a pivotal point in your journey from a musculoskeletal standpoint. It sounds like this was a very pivotal point in the, let's call it the mind part of the equation.
Yeah, and energetically and spiritually, because
Yeah.
I was raised on a farm, right? Like
Right.
I got up and I milked cows. Like people understand. Most people go to high school. Before I went to high school, I had to get down and shovel cow dung.
Right.
All right.
Right. Right.
I had to put the milker on the teats
Right.
of the udder of the cow, right? I
Right.
was doing all that. Like I was up at 5 a.m.
Right.
Okay. So when you take and I was raised in a Christian with a Christian background. I was born Catholic, okay, and I was raised in a Christian neutral denomination church, okay.
Right. Right.
So when I'm having and seeing the things that I'm seeing and having these experiences, they're way outside of my frame of reference. Like I didn't
Right.
grow up with hippies as parents and smoking marijuana and meditating and doing all that kind of stuff. That was way outside of my frame of reference about reality. So when these things started to happen and I started to see them, they had a really big impact on me
Mm-hmm.
because it
So,
was different than how I was raised.
well, it opened up your conscious to a level that most people never see. And that's
No.
one of the things
Yeah.
that, I think that's one of the big benefits of psychedelic intervention is that it can allow you to explore your unconscious, where that needs to be explored sometimes, but people can't get there. They can't
Yeah.
open
So
that. They can't open that door.
no, no, not because they're just so rigid, right?
Right,
So,
right,
so let's go with Roberto. So with Roberto, I was softening my body, right?
right, right,
When I went to the dark room, I was softening my brain, right?
right.
But we missed the intermediary point, which is I did a 44-day fast
Oh yeah, I
on
remember that.
broth and
Yeah.
juice and herbal tea alone for 44 days. That softened my organs.
Well, it also, I remember reading that it cleaned you out from parasites and whatnot, right?
1000%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
So,
was
yeah.
collecting them out of the toilet to show my friends who were like, "Yeah, I don't
Wow.
believe that." I was like, "Okay, let me get this. I'm putting this guy in the freezer."
Yeah. Wow.
Really, you don't believe this? Here, let me
Check it
show
out.
you these
Right.
guys.
Right.
And they were
Yes.
horrified.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was horrified just reading it, not even seeing it. So that leads me into the next chapter of your life and journey, and that's your development of what you refer to as true body intelligence, which is
Yes.
how you are helping people now. And that's composed of, I think you said 5 different things, and
Yep.
one of them was, I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, Ma Xing,
Yep, Moshing.
Ma
Yep.
Xing, and then the other one is ice.
Eye-centric strength.
Yeah, eye-centric strength. That's very interesting. I could spend a whole episode on that probably. And then what was the other 2 components or 3 components?
Yeah, so
The
you've
body
got,
light, body
yeah,
light
you
experience.
yeah, you got Moshing,
Yeah,
okay, for the soft tissues of the
right,
body.
right,
Then you're going to have eye-centric strength for the muscles,
right. And tell people what
okay?
ice means because it's
Centric strength.
important.
So isometric, concentric, eccentric
Eccentric.
strength,
Gotcha.
right? So we're
Okay.
building the difference with what we do is we look at all of the niches within fitness, right?
Mm-hmm. Right,
So you can go to Pilates, you can go to yoga, you can go to weight room, you can get a and you can go to CrossFit. Okay, so
right,
those are the 4 basics. Well, when you look at each one of those communities, they lean heavily on one type of contraction, right? So the
right.
Pilates, they're leaning heavily on active isometric contractions. When
Okay.
you're looking at yoga, they're leaning heavily on passive isometric contractions.
Okay.
When you look at guys that are going to the gym and CrossFit and athletes, they're leaning heavily on active concentric contractions. And when you look at power lifters, they're leaning heavily on eccentric
Mm-hmm. Okay.
contractions, right? And so I
Got it.
looked at that and thought, okay, well, how do we benefit from all 3 of those? Well, in
Right.
order to turn on your nervous system at full bore so you can maximize your intelligence, you need to use isometric, eccentric, and concentric contractions in this very specific fashion so that you can open up the tissue and turn on the energetic channel, the electromagnetic energy moving through that part of the body to turn on an organ so you can get the access, you can access the intelligence that's inherent in that organ.
Mm. Right.
Okay, so we
Yep.
use eye-centric strength to do that. Then we use what's called body of light to, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and then the Word was God, right? And so then I
Right.
remember that from my studies in school of like, okay, so how do we then use the Word,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
in that statement, they're saying that the Word was used as an opportunity to become a co-creator with Source, right? So
Okay.
then I started to create these algorithms and these vibrational algorithms through the Word to be able to locate where generational tension and stress was stored, affecting the epigenetic profile that
Okay.
you picked up from your mom and dad,
Right.
right? And so
Yeah.
then we use that to neutralize the nervous system so that when a person gets into the old situation that used to trigger them, either to shut down or to go into fight or flight response, they're now living in neutrality.
Mm.
And so
Okay.
they can see things for what they are, and they can add nothing and take nothing away. It's just like, wow, Bob's upset.
Right.
Versus like, oh, Bob's a grumpy old bastard.
Right. It's a
right?
different perspective. It
It's
puts
a
a
different
different, yeah,
perspective.
right, right,
Right? And so all the systems are used to get the person's nervous system back in neutrality, okay? And
right,
then we use shocking, which is shaking medicine,
right.
okay? And then we use divine touch, all
Okay.
right? Where we're literally just learning how to place our hands on a particular part of the body or above the body and start to neutralize the negative frequency that's living in that part of the body.
Interesting. So when someone comes to enroll in your program,
Mhm.
is there a set pattern that you always stop with the moshing and then go here, or do you mix it up sometimes based on
Yeah,
the
we have
individual?
yeah, we have to mix it up based on their intent, right?
Okay.
Because their intention is the driver. Now, when I first started figuring out how to put this all together, I was sort of running the show. And
Hmm.
then eventually one day, the divine had the conversation, was like, look, you need to be in the passenger seat.
Right.
You've learned all the skill sets you needed to learn, but I now need to be the driver
Okay.
because this needs to go fast, faster than what you're able to accomplish. And I was like, okay, I guess, yeah.
Right.
If we get an opportunity to co-create a miracle together, what could be better than that?
Right.
So I started to realize that I needed to investigate people thoroughly. And so part of my talent and my skill set is investigation. And my mind is very good at synthesizing systems. And because I'm an auditory learner, whenever people are speaking and I understand all of the information around all the concomitant relationships that you have between muscles and meridians and personality and energy and mood, I'm able to sift through and hear what they're really saying.
Right.
And
Right.
and
And
then they
so,
set their intent, and then we go based on their intention. So some
yep.
people we're going to start with a body of light.
Hmm.
Some people we're going to start getting really physical. And it depends on their intention because they're the driver of what goes on.
Yeah. So I think in the book, you point out that a lot of times you start out with, 4 or 5 days of intensive workshop with
Yeah.
them. And then after that, to maintain it, it's only what, about a half an hour a day or something
No,
like
15
that?
minutes,
15
15,
minutes.
20 minutes
Okay.
max.
And so it
15,
sounds
20
like
minutes
once you
max.
you get through that initial phase, then there's a tremendous amount of durability that sticks around.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you got it right. Your language is perfect for describing these things because I imagine a river that's clogged, right? It's
Right.
dammed up. It's got
Right.
boulders, it's got rocks, it's got pebbles, it's got and it's got sand and dirt, right?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So the first goal is to get the boulders out of the river. And
Right.
then my job is then to teach you how to remove the rocks and the pebbles and the sand on your own so that you're never relying on me.
Got you. Got you.
So I help you get rid of the boulders and then I teach you how to fish for yourself. Because
Understood.
otherwise we're stuck in a codependent dependent relationship that I'm trying to get you out of.
Right. Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to ask you one last thing before I want you to tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. But you make a very, I think, one of the most astute things that you say in the book comes down to uh, being versus doing, and
Yes.
and that I'm guilty. I've been a doer all my life. I mean, and that, you know, good or bad, people perceive that it's like, oh, this is a guy that gets things done. But sometimes you lose the track of, you're so busy doing that you're never being. And
Yeah.
I think you point that out. So give a little take on that.
Background.
Yeah, give a little take on
Yeah,
that
this is
because
easy. So
yeah,
so yeah, so doing versus being. You can train yourself to be very good at doing. Like you and I share that in common. If we have a goal
right,
and a place that we want to get to and a thing that we want to do, we're willing to do the work required in order to manifest the outcome, right?
right, right,
Well, a lot of people are doing that, but in order to do that, they have to give up a part of themselves. So let's take, for instance, they need to drink 3 cups of coffee every day, right? And
right,
have a half a bottle of wine at the end of the day to be able to produce that outcome.
right,
Okay.
right,
So now they have to start leaning on things that are terrible for them in order to produce this outcome, which is going to reflect that they're a wonderful person,
Right.
right?
Right.
Happiness is a state of being. You can never get to happiness from a state of doing.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Open
Yeah.
mindedness is a state of being. Self empowerment is a state of being, right?
Right.
Being humorous and being able to access levity, that's a state of being, right?
Right. Right.
And so my focus is if we reduce your lifetime accumulated stress load and your tension by 50%, we now introduce 50% more being. And now
Mm-hmm.
you're 50-50, 50% being, 50% doing.
Right.
And that means that while you're doing what you're being who it is you were designed to be, which is peaceful, grounded, happy, joyful, and present.
So then you can be doing and be in the present while you're doing.
That's right.
And that's a little bit different than just doing to get to the next step where you're not even
Yeah.
paying attention. One of the things I always have told my kids is that the juice of the journey is far more intoxicating than the celebratory toast of completion.
Yeah.
That we are, when we're doing, sometimes we're only looking at, let's get this thing done. We're not looking at, man, this is really fun doing this.
Yeah.
You
And we're
know?
not looking at the negative effects that it's having on everyone around us
Right.
while we're so focused on doing.
Yeah.
Right. But
That's,
when we're
yeah.
focused on being, it's the place you're coming from. If I'm coming from a place of happiness while
Right.
I'm painting this person's house, or I'm coming from a place of financial desperation while I'm painting this person's house, there's two different experiences that I'm having. The painting is getting done,
Right.
but the experience that I'm having while I'm doing the painting is vastly different because the place that I'm coming from is more inspirational, more gratifying, more satisfying, more peace-filled.
And you're thinking about the beauty of what you're actually doing rather than I
Yes.
just got to get this arduous task completed.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
I told
fantastic.
them they're paying me for 5 days. I need to get this thing done in 5 days because I got this other thing to do and all the monkey mind going. And now I'm drinking tons. And instead of it being an enjoyable experience,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then I'm taking that stress and then I'm taking that home
Right.
and I'm impacting my wife and my kids with that energy, which isn't great for them,
Right. Right.
right?
No, very much so.
And then before you know it, I've burned myself out.
Right.
And I feel underappreciated. I feel exhausted and tired. My shoulders hurt. My sleep is insufficient. And then before you know it, I'm leaning on the daily acceptable drugs to manage my life.
Right. Right. Christopher, thank you so much for coming on the show. One last thing I want to ask you is tell folks how they can get a hold of you if they are interested in this. And I'm very interested, so I'm going to talk to you after we get off
Oh, great.
of the recording. But so tell everybody how they can get in touch with you. And then here's the book, Free for Life. And I encourage everybody to take a peek at it because it's one of those things where you read it and then you think, man, I need to read that again. You know, kind of like watching a great episode of some series that you like, and then you watch it again and you pick up something that you didn't even see the first time. So I kind of feel like it's that type of a book.
Yes, it is. Look, the reason why I wrote the book was to be impactful. It wasn't to make profit,
Right.
right? So I could write from a different place.
Mm-hmm.
And I self-published, so I didn't have anybody telling me the way I needed to write it.
Right.
So I could be as authentic and as honest and true to who I am as a person. And so it's an opportunity not only to read and to learn, but to connect into a certain level of authenticity that I think is really important.
No, and I think that resonates the whole time I read it. It, you know, you could tell that. I mean, it was authentic. So, and how do they get a hold of you? TrueBodyIntelligence.com. Is that the way?
That's the easiest way. Go to truebodyintelligence.com. I tell anyone, if you read the book, I will graciously have a 30-minute to 60-minute connection call with you, helping you out in some way and educating you more. Doesn't matter to me. Like anyone who's willing to take a risk, they can go there, they can find a book. If they want to work with one of my practitioners, they can go to tbitrainingacademy.com.
Okay.
Which I think will be awesome for them. If they want to learn more, they can go to the True Body Intelligence podcast, which is on all platforms.
Okay.
Spotify, Apple. It's available on my website. They could sign up to receive free information. I'm always writing posts and blogging and, all the things that everyone else does.
Right. Christopher, thank you so much. I appreciate the work you're doing, and I think it's going to help a lot of people in this audience because they are, like we said, biohackers and want to get better. So thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
One of our main sponsors, Approved Medical Solutions, is running a 5-day cost-free study on the effects of their product Clean Ketones for essential tremors. This is going to be a very beneficial application for this product, and they have demonstrated to me that it not only improves my athletic performance by at least 10%, it also helps with clarity and concentration. So if you'd like to enroll somebody that you know into this study, just see the link below, and they will welcome you in to try this great product. I hope you all enjoyed today's show and got some truly empowering knowledge out of it. You can always follow up on anything we talked about in the show notes found at our website, podofinquiry.com. If you think you might have tickled just a few neurons inside that cerebral cortex, please spread the word to your friends and colleagues and tell them that they need to get spelunking. Also, if you can take a minute to leave a review on your podcast provider of choice, and especially Apple Podcasts, that would greatly help the show and be so appreciated, provided it's positive. And if not, then just keep your pie hole shut and stay down in that cave. Let's keep spelunking.
This podcast is designed for informational purposes only and does not constitute any medical or surgical consulting advice or imply a development of any physician-patient relationship. The opinions of guests who are featured on the show are not necessarily the opinions of Dr. Barrett or the production team. This podcast is owned solely by Barrett Medical and Surgical Media, LLC. While the show is highly oriented for physicians and healthcare providers, anyone interested in the improvement of human performance and understanding will find us a welcome goblet to sip from, or guzzle. However, no representation or warranties are made in any way whatsoever on this podcast for any products, techniques, or other things discussed. Invited guests are not vetted by the Pod of Inquiry for their qualifications and may have a direct or indirect financial interest in what they present and discuss on the show. The Pod of Inquiry disclaims any responsibility from anything taken from the show and used personally or professionally. It is a responsibility of the listener to perform their own due diligence prior to the implementation of any ideas, products, techniques, or anything talked about on the show.